I'm a healing facilitator.
Ah,
Like the person who is receiving the healing or doing that client is the healer. Their soul is allowing or directing, I hold the space, I have some tools, but I am not the healer. I'm a facilitator.
I love that. I hold the space. I have some tools.
Yeah.
Humility in its most loving form. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Everyday Woo, the place where we talk about the magical side of life with everyday people. I'm Amy from Cultivating Silence, and my guest today is Deborah Hart Gift. Deborah is a wonderful human being and an incredible healer who has many techniques and modalities under her belt. And because of that, I'm actually going to read the rest of her introduction so I don't miss anything. So, Deborah has been an Army medic and registered nurse, working in burn and trauma units, as well as the ICU and the ER. She was also a flight nurse for a period of time, and she has worked in hospice care. She has also been a Reiki master and teacher for the last 20 years. She is a certified functional medicine health coach, and she is a minister with the Circle of Sacred Earth Church. Deborah offers in person and remote Reiki and energy work healings, as well as holographic and shamanic healings. And currently, you can find her on YouTube offering what she calls 15 minutes of love, which are meditations once a month, I believe, in service to love and gratitude for the earth. So if I got any of that wrong, Deborah will correct me, and hopefully I got it right. And so join me, everyone, in welcoming Deborah to the show. Hi, Deborah. How are you today?
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Well, it's all you. So, yay. Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, you have so many different, again, modalities that you work with. It's just incredible. So, I like to start off asking people, if it's okay, what is your definition of the woo?
Woo. That's such a broad thing. I mean, I would say in our world, the woo is just as your podcast is the everyday, right? It's the magic that weaves through every moment and really living by observing and taking in creation.
Well, that's
Um,
mhm.
yeah, I think when you live in the woo, you get to experience so many things that if you're, living like this,
Yes.
you just don't get to see. And it's comical and humorous and
Mhm.
sometimes challenging and a really beautiful place to live.
Wow. Well, that's wonderful. It is quite challenging sometimes. Um, I find. So if you don't mind sharing, well, I mean, we have a lot to talk about today, so you can go in whatever direction you want to. I'd love to talk about your healing work, and as you mentioned before we started, the the fine line between being a registered nurse and being in the world of kind of science, and then being in the world of the woo, and holding both of those spaces at the same time. I think that is probably challenging. So maybe we could just start there with that challenge.
Sure,
Like,
sure. Um, I early in my career as a nurse, I was very lucky. I went straight to burn ICU out of school. Um, so I had the opportunity to work with life and death
mm,
every day and to work with trauma every day. Um, I had great training. It was a beautiful training program,
Mhm.
but it allowed me to use things like energy medicine, um, just, because you're in a room for 12 hours. Usually, in my case, it was usually one nurse to one patient,
Wow.
um, or two nurses to one patient, depending on the level of care needed. And so, even with all the technical things, 12 IV pumps, central lines, I mean,
Mm.
so much care, I could still hang a bag
Mhm.
and ask that medication just like flow to where it needed to be and do what it needed to do, and speak on a soul level. um, Burn care it's incredibly painful. Even giving all the drugs we could give, because people that we treated were generally on a ventilator, so there was there wasn't the worry that they would stop breathing because the
Mm.
machine was breathing for them.
Right.
So our medical director would just say, load them up, make pain control, um,
Right.
take that worry out, like do what you need to do without dropping their blood pressure to an unmanageable place.
Mhm.
Um, but speaking with them soul to soul, and I didn't understand at first that this is what I was doing.
Okay. Hmm.
Right? I mean, it took me a good probably year,
Hmm.
because you're learning all the care,
Hmm.
and then you step back and you realize that you're communicating in a different way with that person who cannot physically communicate back
Wow.
except through vital signs
Hmm.
and fidgeting, and um, so it was a nice kind of entry into, oh, there's so much more
Hmm.
than this technical science piece, this medical piece. And it became a really nice integration. And then as I realized that was one of the things that I was doing, then I sought out
Mm.
more skills, um, learning Reiki, learning shamanic techniques,
Hmm.
and then, continuing on through the years. Um,
Hmm.
that was a really good training ground. And I'm so grateful that I had the awareness to look at what I was doing in a bigger way,
Mm.
in a different way.
Hmm.
But I will say a lot of ICU nurses do the very same thing. And sometimes they realize it, sometimes they don't.
Hmm.
And if you're in that place of like, I'm not going to talk about that, or I'm not going to go there, then it just becomes like a joke, right? It becomes a humorous thing. Oh, did you hear them talking to you?
Oh,
you know,
wow.
um,
Hmm.
at least that's been my experience, is that so many people do have that communication skill, and they either don't outright acknowledge it or they don't acknowledge it to others.
Yeah. And so, first of all, this seems to be your training ground for opening up other senses, like some of your clair senses, maybe. And
Mhm.
as you're saying, being able to communicate on different levels. Um, so that's incredible. You didn't become a nurse so that you could communicate soul to soul, probably. But there you are, and that's the only way that you can communicate. And so it starts
Yeah.
happening. So that's just amazing to me. And like there was a need, and your body fulfills the need, kind of. That's incredible.
And at that time, because this was like the late 80s, early 90s, like Bernie Siegel was bringing his work out. Um,
Is what work? I'm sorry, I don't.
it So Bernie Siegel was a surgeon, is a surgeon. I think he's still on the planet. Um, that that talked about emotions, and
Ah,
communicating with people who were unconscious,
ah,
and doing a lot of that kind of work. It very much spirit, mind, body medicine.
beautiful.
Um,
Hmm.
Certainly not the first.
Mhm.
but at that time, one of the more known
Okay.
doctors. So
And so, did his work make it more palatable for you and the other nurses to talk about the woo-woo part of what you were doing?
it did because he was able to, bring that into large groups. I mean, he has multiple books, but being able to speak to that in a medical community
Yeah.
and that and then doing studies
Mhm.
that showed communication with people who were unconscious, or the power of prayer and the power of good thought, and being able to demonstrate that clinically.
Yeah, that's incredible because the science part of us needs to know that, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And so there are these medical studies that are offering proof and validation. But I want to
Mhm.
ask you, as you were there one on one, and this was first starting for you, you mentioned the cues and clues that you would have would be the person's vital signs or twitching or something. So, can you share some experiences that you had as you were offering healing or just communication with the person and then things start to shift and that's your validation? Does that question even make sense?
Sure. I think I understand what you're asking. An example would be like working in the ER, with I remember a couple of different instances that were very similar, with an elderly person with Alzheimer's coming in extremely combative, just extremely combative. And you, you never want to put grandpa in leathers, right? It- so, and by leathers, what I mean is in that time frame in the 80s, 90s, maybe even later, we would have leather cuffs for wrists and ankles to
Yep.
keep people safe, right? It wasn't like a punishment kind of thing,
Yes.
at least not where I worked.
Good.
um,
Hmm.
but to keep them safe. So, but it's not an ideal situation, um,
Hmm.
when somebody comes in with that level of combativeness,
Yeah.
and clearly not conscious of it,
Right.
right? That like they don't know where they are,
Yeah.
and they feel they're under attack.
Cool.
Um, so being able to send energy to them, to send
Hmm.
um, thoughts of love, of calm, um,
Hmm.
and watch them kind of relax, before the out of band, right?
Exactly.
Before the drugs.
Wow.
And did it happen every time? No, it didn't happen every time. Um, but when it did happen, I was so grateful, and it was so profound.
Yeah.
Um, so, and I'm sure this has happened to lots of nurses who use energy medicine and who just have a very calm demeanor, and you would come into work and someone would say, "I'm so glad you're here because when you're here, things are really calm."
Right.
And not that we're not busy,
No.
but it's a peaceful shift. Even if it's like crazy as hell, it's still a peaceful shift.
Hmm. This is
So,
it's beautiful and fascinating to me because, I think most people think of nurses as kind of the loving, nurturing side of medicine and the real healing side of medicine. Um, and so, it makes sense. I've never connected these dots, but it makes sense that people who go into I have connected these dots that people who go into nursing are very drawn to the healing arts. I have made that connection. But just that people who go into nursing are already set up as
mm,
they already have it in them to be an energy healer and they don't even
yeah,
know
they don't even know it. Yeah,
it.
I think you're right. I would say the majority. of people are like that. They know, if they put their hand on your shoulder when you're grieving,
Mm,
um, or just give you a kind word.
right,
Um,
right.
yeah, that's where healing starts.
Absolutely. That's so beautiful. So I want to ask, did you share some of these things openly with some colleagues? And if so, what were some of their responses? I imagine it ran the whole gambit.
Um, so when I worked hospice, I was also teaching Reiki,
Mhm.
and some of the people that I worked with were actually students. So, and hospice, I was very blessed to work for Hospice of the Valley in the Phoenix area. At
Okay.
the time, it was like the second biggest hospice in the nation,
Wow.
and they were very spiritually and emotionally forward with care. Um, so I was able to have patients that I would see for Reiki.
Mhm.
Um, and they were not like on my regular caseload,
Mhm.
and I would still have to document it as if it were a regular visit. So documenting it, which is valid, right? You want to document where their pain starts, where it is when the visit is done,
Mhm.
nausea, feelings of well-being or calm,
Mhm.
um, and they did let me do that. Like not a ton because it was a busy place, and I did a lot of different jobs for them.
Mhm.
A lot of different positions where I needed to either be in the office or I was doing triage or whatever. But when I was able to have that small caseload of people who wanted Reiki,
Mhm.
um, they were happy to offer it. So,
Mhm.
and I certainly was not the only person who was doing that,
Right.
that type of care.
Right.
So,
Oh, that's beautiful. Um, so I'm kind of sitting with this question and I don't know how to ask it. But so you go into nursing and you can't communicate with the burn victims. And so you find a way to communicate with the burn victims. And then as you continue in your career, I am envisioning, because you have so many different modalities, I'm envisioning kind of a step by step opening process into all of the different abilities, let's say, that you have. So I kind of I'm
mm,
asking about that. Like, what was that process, and when did this open up, and then the next thing opened up, and that kind of a story of your abilities and your skills.
I will do the best I can with that. And you can keep me on track. Um, so I did come to a place. One of the classes or courses that I took was Free Soul,
Hmm.
um, and that was I think Pete Sanders, an MIT professor who wrote the book You Are Psychic, and
Ah,
then a program that was developed to help you develop your skills. Um, and one of the processes that I learned with that was being able to clear the energy, um, not just of myself, but of space, right? And so I would send I would send that on before I would go to work.
nice.
So I would clear that energy,
Mhm.
anything that was less than love, anything that was less than calm, um, snarkiness on anybody's part, because I will tell you, nurses can have a really biting sense of humor
I can imagine. I mean,
and
probably.
snarkiness.
Mhm.
um, which I don't mind, but sometimes it's not the most healing thing on the planet. So I'm sending that ahead and
Mhm.
and letting that kind of knowing that it was there when I stepped into that space,
Beautiful.
and
Mm.
then maintaining that as I was there for that shift. Um,
Mhm.
So I did that a little bit in the burn unit, but certainly when I worked ER,
Oh, yeah.
that was just a routine kind of a thing. Um,
Skill for the ER, I imagine.
it it was nice, and everybody, like, it was a trauma center,
Mm,
a level 2 trauma center that I mostly worked at. Um,
mm,
so when a big trauma comes in, everybody's on high alert. It's a very chaotic kind of a thing,
right.
but still being able to, knowing that pool of calmness and like direct thinking
Mhm.
and camaraderie is available for me was very helpful. Um, and I do think that the other people that I worked with also felt that was available to them.
Beautiful.
It was usually a very cohesive team. It-
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
Not always the same people, but a very cohesive team. So then as I worked, I did take a break when my children were young.
Mhm.
Excuse me. I stepped away
Mhm.
from working. I will say that that was a hard decision for me. I,
Mm,
I love I loved being home with my kids,
mhm.
but that had never been my intention. I had planned to work when my husband was home,
Mm.
um, and I had the blessing of being able to stay home for about 7 years.
Wow.
Um,
Okay. Mhm.
but in that time, it was a good time of study.
Ah, excellent.
So I could, I did learn more Reiki skills, more energetic healing skills, more shamanic skills. And I'll just throw in a plug for the Foundation for Shamanic Studies, shamanism.org. Um, Beautiful workshops, weekend workshops after you take the first basic workshop so that you learn to connect well, um, or at least have those tools. Then they have tons of other workshops, and so I had the ability and the time,
Mhm.
to really take some of those in.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
that was a big blessing. And then I could use those skills when I went back to work. Again, working ER, burn ICU, and then hospice. So because I had worked those before I stopped working. I had done mostly ICU, took a
Mhm.
little break, and then went back to ER and burn ICU. So
Wow.
anyway, as I was doing hospice, hospice is just it's such a different
Mm.
mode of medicine, because your goal is comfort
Yeah.
on all levels.
Mm.
At least that's how it was with the company that I worked at.
Yes.
They were very open to what do you need spiritually.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
you know, there was a social worker that was assigned to every patient, and I'm hearing that it's kind of still that way, but not quite. Um, Everything's been cut back in one way or another.
Mm.
Um, but I was able to offer also some shamanic work for some patients, and we would get into conversations about death and life and what that meant for them and where they thought that they were going
Yeah.
after they left the physical body,
Mhm.
and did they believe in you know multiple life streams or reincarnation. And
Mhm.
um, it was the conversations were so deep and so beautiful,
Yeah.
and it opened up a lot in my heart.
Mm.
And being able to still have the nursing skills. I mean, I would still come in and do a full head to toe assessment.
Mm.
I'd look at their meds, we'd chat about their physical symptoms, and then we would have the time and the space to talk about what their spiritual needs were, what their emotional needs were.
Mhm.
And again, each patient had a social worker and a chaplain if they chose.
Mhm.
Um, but those conversations were never like off limits for me.
Mhm.
for any nurse. I mean, and sometimes we would have a like a little group thing. So I felt really blessed to be able to bring all of those modalities and skills in
Mhm.
and use them, with hospice patients.
Mhm.
Um, just a true blessing. And I can say, except for the holographic work, because I didn't start that until 2021.
Okay.
Um, I was blessed and encouraged to use everything in my toolbox.
Wow.
So that was great. That was
Yeah.
a great place to work. And the same with when my friend and I had the functional medicine clinic. Um, there were people, because I was doing the coaching um, with the nursing, that I was finishing that program that while we were working the clinic. Um, and so she allowed me the grace to also offer Reiki and healing work um, for those who wanted it. So,
Yeah. It's just now I'm sitting with two things. Just the natural soothing and healing that just occurs from someone like you. And as we have said, probably many people who go into the nursing profession, as well as other professions, I'm sure,
mhm,
certainly,
absolutely.
certainly through nursing. Um, and so, even if you were not able to technically use those skills or do some Reiki with a person, you're probably doing it anyway.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like once you're attuned to Reiki or energy medicine in any way, you can't not do. I mean, you have to be really diligent if you don't want it to flow.
Right, right.
So, you know,
Yeah.
um, yeah, and I can't see a reason to not let it
Yes.
just flow from you.
Yeah.
So,
And the other thing that I was sitting with is you mentioned that during your hospice work and having these deep conversations about life and death, which are so to me rich and beautiful. You mentioned that it opened your heart, and
oh my gosh.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I find, and I think I've been taught probably as well, that as your heart is truly opening, a lot of things happen. And certain skills can come online, and it can be really rough sometimes. So, on the shifts and changes in your body when that kind of a process is going on. But I'm
Hmm.
wondering if you would share a little bit about what your experience of having your heart maybe opened up was like.
Yeah. You know, sometimes, we talk about like your heart cracking open.
Yes, I almost said that. Yes.
Yeah. And it it's not always pleasant.
That's right. I know. Yes.
I mean, there can be sorrow and grieving, and what I found is if you if you don't let it run through you all the way,
Mhm.
um, then it'll come back to bite you, for lack of a better term, because it your heart wants to be open. It you your soul wants to be expanded, and when you do that through the heart, it you just I feel like it enhances, like you said, all the clairs, all of your physical senses. When you're in that kind of conversation that really cracks you open,
Mhm.
there's an innocence. Um, there there's an allowing of creation to speak through you,
Ah,
and then you get to hear. You get to hear what creation is saying, and you're like, wow, did that just come out of my mouth? Wow. you know and the same, especially I have found with people who are on that threshold, maybe not like super close to death, because those people often don't speak,
Yes.
Um, but people who are transitioning toward that space of death,
Mhm.
um, they're so much more curious, I have found. Um, Even if they're fearful, they're still so curious about what happens next.
Mm.
And I don't mean necessarily where they go after they die, but like what's the next physical stage of, like am I going to um I'll start again. So when somebody is coming closer to death, there are physical changes that occur almost universally. You start to sleep more. And then as you start to sleep more, you start to process more, right? You might have more dreams, or you might not remember the dreams, but you'll wake up feeling either at peace or
Mm.
like there's something that you really need to nail, like you need to get it done. um,
Mhm.
so that expansion comes for each person,
Yes.
but we don't always know that we're the catalyst for each other
Hmm.
for that heart breaking open.
Mm.
Um, so for me, sometimes like I will feel physically um, where someone is having discomfort in their body.
Mm.
um, and that's
Feel it
if
in your
feel it
body.
physically right. So if I'm doing a session, um, that is often how I'm guided to move about the body.
Yeah.
um, like I'll feel shoulder pain, and then we'll treat that, and then I'll feel abdominal pain.
Mhm.
But that would happen with patients as well, as we would be conversing. And that for me was part of that breaking open, because you allow the discomfort so that you know what they're feeling. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. And so allow, that's so beautiful. And earlier you talked about if you don't let yourself feel the grieving and the sorrow that's moving through you, it'll come back to bite you. And here you're talking about allowing the discomfort so that you can be informed how to be of service to the person that you're working with. And so here's two beautiful examples of, I'm going to start preaching, I think, of how important it is to let yourself feel even the most challenging emotions of the emotional spectrum, as well as even physical pain and issues. It's
Yeah,
important to feel it.
yeah.
And that's so beautiful. Two beautiful examples of why that's so important. So thank you for those examples.
My feeling is the body complies.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is if there's something that you're not addressing,
Mm.
and I'll give you an example. I fell and broke an arm. The first bone I ever broke in 2020.
Okay.
And the lesson that I got from that, um, that I had been kind of working with, but had not really brought into my being as completely as I should have, or I shouldn't say should have, but
Mhm.
it wasn't in a timely way. Like it was like, it would behoove you to get this now. And that lesson, even though it was an arm that was breaking, it was I heard but I didn't listen.
Yeah.
And so the circumstance was I had come back from a vacation. It was a dear friend's birthday. We were hiking because it was our tradition to do that on her birthday,
Oh,
right?
nice.
I was so tired. I was so tired, but I should have listened to my body saying, you really you can't push today.
Yeah.
But my friend is younger. I'm a little it was an egoic thing. I mean, I wanted to be like, of
Yes.
course I can get off of a plane and not have any sleep and then come hike with you, even though I'm, you know, you're fit, more fit than I am, whatever. But I didn't listen.
Yeah.
And then I fell and my arm hit granite and it broke in a lot of places. There
Oh,
a lot of like, lots of shards. There were lots of shards.
so sorry.
But I knew
Mhm.
when I picked myself off the ground. I mean, I knew it was broken. I'd seen enough
Oh yeah, you're.
broken arms. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I broke my arm.
Mhm.
And and I knew in that moment that my body had complied. I wasn't listening.
Mhm.
And so now I get that lesson in you are going to hear and you're going to listen.
Yeah.
And then I took, 8 weeks to really heal that and, surgery. I've got a giant plate in my arm and
Yeah. Wow.
but it and I wouldn't change it. I mean, that time in healing was what I needed.
Mm.
My body complied. My body made space for that time for me. So so when I'm working with somebody and they're having like whether it's acute or chronic, and I'm always in the back of my mind asking what is and same for myself.
Mhm.
What is my body complying with?
Mhm.
What is it that I'm either doing or not doing, or
Mhm.
I have an idea of what I want to manifest, but I'm not putting those steps into motion,
Mhm.
or I put them into motion in a way that isn't compatible with the outcome that I desire.
Mhm.
And sometimes my body, will show me where that disconnect is, where I'm not complying with the steps that would bring me to where I want to be,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yes. And, I say to clients all the time, you know, uh, first of all, you have to put yourself first, not in a narcissistic way, but
Right.
in that, awareness of what your needs are and meeting your own needs so that you're loving yourself. And then you can show up for everybody else. So, and that requires awareness and deep listening. So, yeah, how would you say, probably two questions here. How would you say you actually are now able to listen on a deeper level to your body? And I guess the other part of that question was, how did you get from where you used to be to where you are now? But I don't know.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I didn't like to, I, like many women, many people, people pleaser. I didn't want to say no to somebody's request or idea. Um, I also didn't want to see myself as not being able
Ah, right.
to do something. Again, like dog tired, take a rest, right?
Yes.
But sometimes I wouldn't. And so learning that it's okay, and I mean truly taking it into my heart to say no when I need to say no. Um, and mostly to myself.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with saying to myself, this is not ideal for you. And the flip side of that is when I could push a little harder, and there have been times when I don't because it's uncomfortable. And so I feel like I've learned to modulate that a little bit better, saying no when I need to say no, and saying yes, you need to push
Okay.
through challenge, through discomfort, through, stepping out of your box.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Beautiful. Okay. I'm really glad that that little section of discussion bubbled up because I think it's so important for people to hear. over and over and over again because most, I wanted to say we all, but most of us tend to put other people first. I mean, unless you're a
Mhm.
narcissist, but, lots of people put everybody else first and forget to take care
Yeah,
of themselves. So that's so important. Very
it
good.
is.
So, I definitely want you to talk about your holographic healing work because I find that so
Mm.
interesting. And I would also like to ask you this question that may or may not be at all related to that. Again, this is called the everyday woo, and I like to be able to speak to people who are totally unfamiliar with any, like we keep using, I used at first the term clair senses. Like people might not even know what
Mm.
clair senses are. Um, so my question in service of that is what were the early signs, if there were any, like when you were a kid
Mm.
or in your young adult life and before you even went to nursing school, maybe that like as you look back now, like, oh, well, that was a little woo-woo. Like I didn't connect those dots until later in life. So that's the question. And then the holographic work.
Okay. So yeah, yeah, I did have things as I was a child. I remember being able to leave my body pretty comfortably, and kind of like view my body from the ceiling. And I remember my mother has talked about, like, I have memories of that, but she has said, my sister was very, very ill, and I came to her and said, she'll be fine. I've been watching her
Wow.
from the ceiling.
Oh.
And what, but I was also very blessed to grow up in a household where, Edgar Casey was a common book on the shelf. And, we could have conversations about reincarnation and ancient cultures. And,
Wow.
so I'm very blessed to have had that.
Mm,
Um, and then I can't say that it's never been a part of my life. I mean,
mm.
in junior high and kind of later elementary school, I had friends that we would try and practice, like telepathy together or dreaming together. So,
Yeah.
that's I've always been a little odd. I'll put it that way. Right?
In the club.
So,
Yes.
um, and then, as you become an adult, and that really awkward in between time from, like, 13 to 18 or whatever. Some of that, for me at least, got shoved to the back, right? Because you don't want to be the weird kid.
That's right.
Um,
Mhm.
but there's also so many other things to learn. I mean,
Mhm.
there's so many things coming through your body, and,
Yeah.
hormones, and what is something that is coming in, like, from your higher self versus informing your body through chemical hormones.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I don't think there's that many kids that could make that distinction, right?
Mhm.
So I would say that there have always been some things that are, I won't say not typical, I would say not talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know how many people have these. I'm just guessing that lots of people have experiences that are considered different or odd, and we just don't know. We just don't know because we don't talk about it.
Hence this show.
Exactly.
Yes, I think everybody has experiences at
Yeah,
least once in their life and like, oh, what was that? That was
yeah.
weird. I'm not talking about that. Well, I think we all should be talking about it. So you and I are talking about it today. Thank you very much.
Yes, I think you're doing a great service.
Thank you.
by making it every day.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's important for every human being to recognize, oh no, that's not so weird. You know, it's actually normal. It's just put in the weird category because nobody's talking about it. Okay, so now, last but not least, and maybe not even last, we'll see. Yeah, share anything about the current work that you're doing that you would like to share with people, and so that people know what you're offering and how you work, so that people can get in touch with you if they would like. But I'm really interested in the holographic work that you're doing.
So the holographic work was was like gifted to me. Um, and I know we have talked previously about I had an astrology friend who was, you know, giving me a birthday reading, and one of the things she said to me was the things that the tools that you hold, the medical, the science, and the spiritual have set you up in a way that if something like a med bed were ever to come to fruition, you would be the person to interface that. Um, and in that time, I guess 2021 was an interesting year for me.
Mm-hmm.
um, I was having some memories of being a flying craft, right, and accessing the control of that vehicle with my hand. Just being able to put my hands on it. It didn't look like a dashboard. It didn't look like anything until I put my hands on it,
Mm-hmm.
and then being able to navigate that craft. Um, and that was kind of a jumping off point for me, asking universe, asking creation. I have these memories. I do have these tools, right? How can they be used in, now? Because we don't have that technology, at least not openly, um, on this planet at this time. But I can feel that it's a valid technology, right? So I began kind of experimenting and asking, putting myself into kind of like shamanic trance, and then being guided to put my hands on my Reiki or massage table. And I began to see that as a control panel. I would put my hands on, and then this chamber would appear. And it's very specific for me. I mean, I see it in kind of this peach tone of metal, um, like a pebbly metal, with um, like a kind of a crisscross pattern in the door that opens and closes. It's this the one I'm describing as a horizontal chamber, um, and that I could see this, I could feel it as you know when I asked for it, um, and then light beings that would come and instruct me and would work with me, and it's the same beings that I started with, ascended masters, archangels, what I call galactic brothers and sisters. But as I enter that space, the room around me becomes kind of, I experience it as like a white room with very large windows looking into space. Um, and then there are monitors around me so that I can see into the body. Um, so I'll describe a session like from beginning to end, if that would be helpful.
Great. Yes.
Okay, so um, the client and I talk beforehand and come to, you know, like some statements of what they're looking for. So somebody who's maybe having it had an ankle injury. Um, they want full function. They want the pain relieved. And this is spiritual work. I will not say that it's physical work. Physical symptoms do seem to, respond, but I can never guarantee that. It's energetic work, spiritual work. Um, so I ask that they are completely relaxed. They put themselves in a meditative state. We agree on a time. We're not in communication during the session at all.
Mhm.
Their holographic image appears to me on my table. I ask um, for their healing in their highest and greatest good, going across time, space, and dimension, going to the cause and the core of what that injury or illness or, you know, feeling of unwellness, where that was created. And it may be something in this lifetime, something really routine. It may be something from a previous life stream or a concurrent life stream, if you like to think of it that way. Um, so once they're in the chamber, the chamber door closes, I see like an initial scan. I see that as golden hoops of light that go up and down the body. Um, and that's what determines where we start. Every session is different. Sometimes there are like light beams that come down from the roof or the ceiling of the chamber, and they'll go into specific parts of the body. Often light will come through the central channel. Um, so different frequencies of light have different opacities. Some are sparkling light, some are just uh, transparent colors, some are completely opaque. Like sometimes the chamber will just fill with like opaque, sparkling pink, white, gold light. And then I won't be able to see the body, but I'll be able to see where they need to see inside the body on the screens. Um, but that generally is like scrubbing the field and just really transmuting things that don't serve um, energetically, densities, and it just kind of scrubs that away and then exits the chamber. Um, and then, so everything I see one by one, but I know that everything is occurring simultaneously, but my brain can't process that. So after that initial scan, I might see like a band of like turquoise light over the lungs.
Right.
And then I know, or I'm told, I have the knowing that frequency of light is really clearing out any debris, any inflammation, any gunk that shouldn't be there, including thought forms, right? Um, Clearing that out. And then I might see that light start to circulate through the lungs, like in through the nose, out through the mouth, and circulate and really scrub. Um, I might see light come in like through the top of the head, go down the spinal column, and really kind of expand the space between facets and decrease inflammation in the nerves on a micro level. Um, it's every session is different, um, and sometimes I will have like if that injury has its roots in a different existence. Um, and like a vision will open up and I'll see the part of that that's relevant. And then there will be like more of a shamanic type healing with that. Um, so we might discuss with that other version of beingness what this version is experiencing and how they can come together to bring that into balance. Um, so and that might be just something like a small soul retrieval where you're bringing a part back and that's going to integrate back into the body and into the field. or letting go. It may be something that just needs to be transmuted. Um, I never think of something as being like destroyed, or taken out and thrown away. If something is removed, it's blessed and it's sent back to be used in a higher way. Um, so every session is different. Um, they last 30 to 45 minutes. And as I said, I see it, I'll see one piece and I know that that continues throughout the session. And then I'll see another piece. Um, and I know that it's all happening at once. And then as the session concludes, I ask that the healing continue in the way that it needs to for that person for as long as necessary, and that they receive deep rest and integration. So, and then we follow up by phone or by Zoom. I try not, I don't like to schedule that more than closer than an hour in case somebody's sleeping, because some people
Sure.
really just sleep after that. And I have had a few people that they don't have the, I won't say capacity, they don't, they really need to integrate before they can talk about it.
Yes.
Um, so, then I just ask if, let me know if if you need a couple of days, or a week or whatever to really let that move through you. Um, some people just like fall asleep and they have no consciousness of that time that we've spent together. And then some people will be like, I had the most amazing dream, right? Or I felt like there was something moving in my liver, just um, so it's different for everybody as well. And similar to Reiki, whenever I do Reiki or a shamanic session, there's almost always homework. Um, I'm almost always given something, a ritual, maybe some flower remedies, journaling, something that will augment that healing for them and really bring it into their being. And it's always your choice. You do the work or you don't. But I love that. So I consider it working with a healing team that they're like, well, here's something you can do, you know, if you want to further this healing.
You asked, and boy, did you get an answer. I mean, wow.
Yes, yeah. So I experimented, right? I went to some trusted clients and friends and said, I've been gifted this modality. Can you help me like sort it out? Because it sounds like a crazy person, right?
But
And I had to roll with that because I mean,
yeah,
valid. It sounds like a crazy person, but I have found it to be very, very effective. So,
yeah. I I have so many things to say. Again, the reason for this show, yeah, all this sounds woo-woo and or crazy, and it's not. Or it is until you experience it, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's not so crazy. And yeah, so that's one thing. Another thing is, as you were talking about all of that, I'm sure the camera wasn't on me, but I had the biggest smile on my face. It felt like you were working on me a little bit
oh,
as you were talking through all of that. And along with that, I want to share, I'm experiencing some physical pain, which is my way.
mm,
And before about an hour before we got together, it started to subside, and it hit me. I thought, oh, I think that's Deborah. I think it's relaxing because I'm connecting with Deborah. And there have been moments throughout our connection today where it's kind of ebbed and flowed, but lots of moments where it's just been very relaxed, and I think
mm,
so. Thank you for that.
ah,
Um, two other things. It's, it makes total sense that you would have become a nurse earlier in your life so that you can now be doing this type of healing and you know the freaking body. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what a skill is that that aids in all the healing work that you're doing for people? That's incredible. And the last thing that came to me was in the beginning, when you started talking about this and you were describing it, you said, there were windows and you looked out and I think you said there were maybe stars. So I'm wondering, when you do this, do you think you are actually on board a ship, doing the work from another location?
I,
How's that for a crazy question?
I mean, it does sound crazy. Sure. But I mean, that's what I see. I see these giant windows looking out into space, and I see stars. So is it a ship? It could be. It feels like I'm in this, like I'm not on Earth, and like
Yep.
we all go to this other place,
That's
wherever this other place may be.
fascinating. Okay.
So I can't say that I do that. It's just how I perceive it. Like that's how I perceive that room,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
which doesn't make it true. It's just how I perceive it.
Yeah.
So
And that is one of the things, in this incredible world that we live in, you know, I don't think it matters. If it's a construct in your mind that you're using, and then at the end of it, you are somehow healed. Who cares if it's a construct in your, or if you're actually, some part of you is actually someplace else on a ship with Deborah and all these healing people. And then at the end of it, somehow you're healed. Thanks, guys. So whichever it is, as long as, you are shifted in a loving way to some level of new healing, feeling
yeah,
better, something, to me, that's what's important. So
yeah.
say be as crazy as you want to be.
And I will say I don't think I said this before. I'm a healing facilitator.
Oh,
Like the person who is receiving the healing or doing that client is the healer. Their soul is allowing or directing, I hold the space, I have some tools, but I am not the healer. I'm a facilitator.
I love that. I hold the space. I have some tools.
Yeah,
Humility in its most loving form. I mean, you have a lot of skill, but yes, I'm glad you're making this point. I agree with that. I think that's true. We all heal ourselves,
yeah.
but sometimes we need support. And you offer incredible support. So, Deborah, thank you so much for being, first of all, for cultivating all of these skills and sharing them in service of other people and in service of healing the earth as well with your monthly meditations. And thank you for being so open and willing to talk about it, because sometimes it does sound crazy. And I think we all just have to get over that.
Yeah.
If it works, it
Yes.
works, as long as it's not hurting you. So
Yeah.
thank
Well,
you.
thank you, Amy, because you make it a very comfortable space to talk and to be able to just say what's going on and is it woo? Absolutely. Um, but it's good and it's needed. And thank you for creating this space.
Oh, you're very welcome. Again, thank you for being here. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And if you are interested in working with Deborah, I will link things in the description. But if you want to share just verbally, you want to say where people can connect with you?
Facilitatedhealingarts.com is my website, and I will say it doesn't reflect everything I do. But so Heart Gift as my YouTube channel. I do 15 minutes of love on the first Wednesday of each month, and that's a pre-recorded meditation to drumming. Um, I love the drumming. I feel like it really helps your consciousness stay grounded but moving. Um, you know, so and then twice a month I offer group distance Reiki, where you just um, put yourself in a meditative state either at the time I'm sending or whenever you choose. There's instructions on my website how to do that. And it's the second Friday from 9 a.m. to 9:30 Pacific and the fourth Sunday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 Pacific. And it's just you just drop into that state, and my team and I hold the space for anybody who wants to receive. We send to the earth, we send to the cosmos, to humanity. So
Beautiful offerings. So I encourage anybody who's interested to reach out to Deborah. And once again, I started to, but I didn't finish. I will thank everyone for watching and for joining us. And we will see you next time on the Everyday Woo. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.